I wanted to have a look at some of the energies of a couple of people, Mr. Houston and Mr. Petracca, and a bit over their energy and whether or not they would be a fit for the Carlton team. So let's start with Mr. Houston. So this is a bit of a stubborn, energied person. Somebody a little bit afraid of change and a little bit, I'm going to say, needy on an emotional level. This is somebody who does require a lot of understanding and a lot of nurturing in order to get them to change, to get them to feel stable enough to make a choice. And, you know, a lot of the energy of this person, the stubbornness, it's very much related to not actually wanting to see from anybody else's perspective, right? This is somebody whose emotions are very deep, are very, are felt very strongly, but they're not going to tell you about them. You just need to kind of assume what they are and treat them that way, okay? And that's another level of the stubbornness here of just like, you should know kind of energy. All right, very direct with communication though. So when they know something, when they're sure of something, they're very direct with that communication. Now, building a relationship with somebody like this can be very difficult because they're very fast moving with relationships. Probably somebody who has a lot of friends and not really a deep relationship with most of them, because this is the energy of wanting to be spontaneous, which is very strange for somebody who has such a stubborn energy and a fear of change. But the spontaneous side of this kind of building relationships, it actually relates back to that stability, because if we aren't building something deep, then we don't have to worry about the stability of it, right? Because if we aren't building something long-term and deep, then we don't really have to worry about losing it. And, this is also somebody whose masculine energy and their drive for moving forward, it can be very self-critical, and it can then project out as being very critical of other people and how they take leadership of their life. And so in order for somebody like Mr. Houston to sort of make a change and to change the direction that they are wanting to lead their life, they actually need to do it in very small steps. And part of this is because there is an underlying voice in Mr. Houston that tells him that he should feel a little bit shameful or a little bit guilty about not actually being enough for people, not actually being able to give people enough, right? This is also connected to the way that he builds these relationships, because if he feels like he can't build a good enough relationship, why should he bother? Let's just have quick relationships. Let's have, we'll just go through the top of the water kind of relationships. We won't ever get deep, because then I don't have to worry about the judgment that I have for myself about not being able to maintain like a long-term solid situation, okay? And this is also because there is a wound of relationships in the psyche of Mr. Houston, when this gives you like a craving for, but a fear of relationships. Again, because there is a heavy stubbornness and a heavy connection to being stable, the less energy we put into building long-term solid relationships, the safer we are from having to lose them. Now, he is here to expand and take risks and bring change in very unexpected ways. The way that his mind works when he is thinking about how to grow and how to expand and how to change and how to rebel against a system, whether it's his own system or somebody else's system, he can do so in a very outside of the box kind of way. And so, he's capable of having this new way of doing things that's not like anybody else's. And once he understands that from his own perspective, from his own energy of emotion, once he understands what that change will do for him, there really will be no way to stop him from getting what he wants. It is very much that kind of energy. And he is currently closing out this wounding around relationships and how it allows him to structure his life, how he makes rules for himself about how he shows up. He's just closed that out, and he's entering this new 2-year journey where he is going to be looking at what it is that he inherently knows about himself, what lessons he can learn from his past, from his family's past, and from relationships of the past. And there are lessons in there that need to be alchemized. There are lessons in there about how to use negative situations and traumas and past heartbreaks, how to use those things to become a stronger person. Because this is the energy of somebody who, the reason why they come across so stubborn and so direct in their communication and possibly a little bit short and sharp with it is because of this fear of letting anybody in is a terrifying exercise in what it will feel like to fail at that and to have to let everything go. So it's an interesting energy to be thinking about when it comes to the whole entire Carlton team, because they are very much in this energy of needing to change, but also being scared of it, being scared of the outcome of choosing the wrong thing. And so that side of him really does fit the overall energy of the Carlton team. But it is exactly that makes me think that we shouldn't be taking him, because we should be making moves towards something different, not something that is already stubborn in its own right. Now, the positive side of taking him on board is that the energies where he does things authentically will make him somebody who is very able to adapt, very able to bring change, take risks, and adapt to whatever a new way of thinking is. But this isn't really somebody who brings a new way of thinking. And so I don't think that that's a match as we progress with the Carlton energy. And, this is kind of somebody who is potentially going to show up too authentic as well. And like what I mean by that is that this attachment that the overall Carlton energy seems to have to keeping everybody in their place, everybody in their box, everybody in the cookie cutter, that this is potentially someone who is not going to care about that. And that could cause a lot of friction. And that is the sort of friction that I would say bring him on board for, because I think that is what we need. We need more energy in the Carlton team that does that, and that potentially could do it. Overall, I wouldn't pick him. I don't think his energy is correct if we are trying to move forward to something new. So let's have a look at Mr. Petracca. Now, talk about stubborn. Okay, this man is likely to be one of the most stubborn people you will ever meet. Okay, the way that his ego presents itself, his masculine energy, how he takes risks and moves through his life, how he revolutionizes things, how he overcomes traumas, all of these things are very stubborn. Very stubborn. Very much his emotion forces movement, and he can't not do it once it's in his head. That is where this stubbornness comes from. Now, the way that he communicates and builds relationships, very different. Very different, very outside of the box. Probably has felt a lot during his life that building relationships and his communication is in a style that people often misunderstand. And, he's not very honest with himself about his emotional state. He likely just kind of pretends that he doesn't actually have feelings in order to, get the job done, to do the thing. But what will happen with that is this is the energy of somebody who will just keep repressing their emotions, keep lying to themselves about not having any requirements for emotional balance, until eventually somebody comes at them, they get a little fire, they stomp their little feet, and it's kind of the energy of, you should know how I feel and you should be treating me like that. And it will explode out in a lot of anger, scary anger, actually. There's a lot of scary anger in Mr. Petracca's chart. And, you know, he's in this process right now of really kind of figuring out who he wants to be, like who he's going to show up as, what sort of a man he is going to be. And he is somebody very driven to get the job done, right? Very driven to get the job done. And thinking outside of that is very difficult, right? And there is a lot of shame and guilt and a lot of placements where he would have felt misunderstood in regards to his emotional nature. And in regards to like feeling like nobody could ever nurture him and understand him and love him in the way that he deserves and needs. And in particular, when you look at that sort of energy in the workplace, this is somebody who feels like they are never truly understood and respected for the work that they do. Okay, so this is somebody who has practiced and practiced and practiced and has nailed the skills, has nailed everything that they think they need to be able to do a really good job, very able to adapt to new situations, communication, very smart at communication. There's a bit of a joy in how he communicates with people and how he builds relationships from this very eccentric, authentic place. But the stubbornness with which he comes at his life from this place of not feeling understood and convincing himself that there is a level of disrespect when he is not being seen for the hard work that he has done. This is the challenge of his psyche. And he also has that similar wound to Mr. Houston around a fear of, but a desire for relationships. And this really affects the way that he shows up in the world. And this is somebody who, you know, goes over with a fine-tooth comb everything they said in public, everything they said to that person, everything, every word, every tone, everything about the way they present themselves to the world is very well thought out and criticized. And, you know, part of what he's here to do is to bring people together, is to help form relationships where people are able to be themselves, right? He has this magic of being able to kind of make people believe that them being who they are, showing up as who they are, should be a joy, right? And so that's his magic, and he is here to use that magic to bring people together that should be together, people that would be able to collaborate really well together. But he is moving away from these old patterns and old lessons of ego and stubbornness to see from somebody else's perspective. And that's where he is right now in his life. And when you think about that energy as part of the Carlton team, there's a number of things that are yeses and a number of things that are no's. My overall opinion is that his energy just is not quite a fit because of the stubbornness. However, if he moves through this phase of his life right now that he's in for another year or so, right? If he moves through the next 18 months and he gets a grip on where his stubborn behavior comes from and where the outrage of not being respected and understood comes from, if he gets a grip on that, then he is going to be quite unstoppable. And the energy that he is able to use to communicate to other people how to show up authentically would be very helpful to Carlton. But I don't see him being in that place next year. I feel like he has 18 months to 2 years before he fully settles into that energy. And so, again, I just don't think he's right for the energy of the Carlton team. I am going to do a video where I talk about the energy of the Carlton team a little. And if you're interested in that, make sure you like and subscribe. Otherwise, thanks for staying with me. Stay weird.